So today I'm going to be doing a review of the Cyrus ONE Cast to test it in two systems. I'm not borrowing a manufacturer loan unit for this review. Take this as a very independent review if you wish, but I should also say that I'm a big Cyrus fan, and equally I recognise what's good about them and what isn't quite so good. I'm trying the Cyrus ONE Cast with a pair of Ophidian Minimo speakers, which are mini monitor speakers. Also, I'm using it with my PMC 2523 floor standing speakers. Now, what I did think is that the Minimos would be really great with this Cyrus because of the Class D amplification of the Cyrus and the smooth nature of the Minimos, so it would account a great balance. And the Minimos are fantastic speakers, which I've tried before. Now, this Cyrus obviously takes its cues from the original Cyrus ONE of the 80s, and they've designed it to look quite similar. Cyrus has a big brand reputation, so they can be quite expensive, but this product comes from the lifestyle range that Cyrus offer. So it's more affordable and fits into probably what the average hi-fi buyer would own. And I should say, on value, the Cyrus ONE is about the same price as a Cyrus Lyric you can get, which is an all-in-one with a CD player. So we're talking here amongst one of the best value products you can buy from Cyrus. It's £1,300, similar to the Lyric. What I noticed when you look at the back of the Cyrus ONE is that it says made in China. This is a little bit beguiling because I happen to know that the Cyrus hi-fi boxes are made in Huntingdon. The cases are made by a Swedish company and the PCBs are manufactured by a British company. But I don't actually think we should be that concerned with this, because so long as the product quality is good, is decent, then it doesn't really matter where it's made, does it? It's a very tough market at the moment for manufacturers, and however it can be made cheaper, I'm for it, and so is the consumer, obviously. Also, as we've already talked about, Cyrus have shifted from making traditional hi-fi components, premium hi-fi components, to more of the lifestyle range, products like the Cyrus ONE Cast, the original One, the One HD, and obviously products like the Cyrus Sound Key, which is a headphone amplifier and DAC. As far as case quality is concerned, I love that luxury gloss front fascia. I like the round dials that are made from a lovely soft touch plastic. It's like that. It's like really good quality car plastic. And I like the overall design of the case, and the case is of decent quality. Now, they've obviously designed the Cyrus ONE from the original one, but it also takes its cues from the original Cyrus cases that have been ongoing since the 90s. It's got the same grille pattern on the top, and this is all great. But there are some quality control niggles with this box, which I'm sure Cyrus wouldn't mind me pointing out from the perspective of improvement. First off, the speaker terminals at the back come as screw types, which for a product of this price, you'd expect a 4mm banana socket type plug. It doesn't appear that the little plastic covers of the screw-on terminals come off. Also, if you're going to be using speakers at a similar price which have 4mm binding posts, why doesn't the Cyrus? If you turn the case over onto its bottom, you can see that the feet aren't stuck on equally. This is only a small niggle, but you've got to sort this out, Cyrus. Impressions matter. The rotary knobs have a kind of steering wheel non-spherical effect as you turn the knob, which could be easily sorted out by making sure it's on bang center. I know this product isn't obviously of DCS type quality with the way that the DCS volume knob turns so perfectly, but it's not difficult to sort this out. It would show great attention to detail of what is already a quality product. If you look at the back, I noticed the two Wi-Fi aerials are slightly wobbly, and again, this is something that you wouldn't expect of a product at this price. The remote control you get with the Cyrus One is a little bit cheap looking for a £1,300 product. It looks a bit like an Amazon Fire TV type remote. Now, I'm not normally one for drawing out points of minutiae on the quality of remote controls, but the Amazon TV is a £25–30 product and the Cyrus One is a £1,300 product. So I would have liked a nice metal unit remote, something of better quality, and even if it meant passing that on to the consumer for the sake of a small added cost, I think that should be done because it all adds to the impression of quality. Also, it's worth pointing out that if you buy a Cyrus CD player like the CDT, which is an £850 player, or something like a 6 DAC integrated amp from their integrated range, which is about £1,000, you'll get a luxury type remote control. The original One uses Cyrus's 3rd generation Class D amplifier and is an analogue amplifier with no DAC or digital inputs, but with a phono stage for use with turntables. It also allows Bluetooth. Then the One HD came out with digital inputs for the onboard DAC as well as analogue inputs and the phono stage, and a Cyrus 4th generation Class D amplifier. The One Cast keeps the same amplifier and DAC, keeps the phono stage, but incorporates Chromecasting functionality to stream all your music. You can use its input for an analogue source or another DAC perhaps, or home cinema bypass. It's a Wi-Fi device as it has no fixed Ethernet socket. The basic idea is you use your music app to cast music to the Cyrus ONE Cast. It does not need its own app therefore. Cyrus were selling the original One with a Chromecast audio and choice of speakers for £1,000 as part of a promotion. Now the Chromecast is obsolete, Cyrus have obviously decided to integrate Chromecasting functionality into the unit. Now I say that the Google Chromecast audio is obsolete, but you can still get some online and it's still kicking around on eBay. Now, quite why Google decided to drop it, I've no idea. It's a budget streamer, but it's got huge performance for the money. Now, it's a little kind of puck-sized device with basically 2 sockets, 2 connections. On one side, there's a USB power connection, and then on the other side, you've got a 3.5mm socket, which also doubles up as a optical digital output. It's kind of like a combined socket. In technical language, you'd call it a pass-through socket. And the reason you can tell this is if you turn it on, you can see the little red optical light coming through the socket. Now, if you use the 3.5mm jack output, you're effectively using its internal DAC and then connecting it to your source. I use mine for a speaker, travel speaker that I use when I go to hotels, because you can simply use the small Google Chromecast with this, and you just simply plug it into its 3.5mm socket there. This speaker's nothing special, it's just a cheap iPod dock, about 10 years old, but it serves its purpose. Now, if I want to use a better connection, I'll use a optical cable into the pass-through socket. I've got on here a little adapter which plugs onto the optical socket. It turns it into a micro optical cable, I think it's called. and then that just goes into your Chromecast like that. The other end of the optical cable will then just plug into the optical digital input into your hi-fi. If you want to use the Google Chromecast into your RCA connections in your hi-fi, you could use a 3.5mm to 2 RCA cable, which will plug into Chromecast like this, and then you simply just plug in the 2 left and right channels into your hi-fi amp. Again, you're using the DAC in the Chromecast audio. In this case, I'm using the digital output connection into the digital input of the Cyrus ONE Cast. Now, the Chromecast audio is obviously a Wi-Fi device because it's not big enough to have a Ethernet socket. It's only a flat puck-sized shape. To start Chromecasting music to your Chromecast audio, go into your app, Spotify, Tidal, YouTube Music, any one of those, or any number of others. Press the Chromecast button, find your device, and then start Chromecasting music to your device. It's really as simple as that, and you're not actually, it's important to say, streaming from your operating device, your tablet, to the Chromecast audio, but the Chromecast audio is actually streaming the streaming service natively. So there's no sending music over wireless airways and degrading sound quality like you get with Bluetooth. Now obviously you don't need to use a Chromecast audio puck with the Cyrus ONE Cast because it has Chromecasting built in. After adding a power cable and speakers, you add the Cyrus ONE Cast in the Google Home app. To play music to it, you open your app, find the Cyrus ONE Cast in the list of devices on pressing the Chromecast button, and then cast music to it. Because everything is casted from the app itself, the Cyrus ONE Cast doesn't actually have its own app. Using voice control is a really neat feature. You can use Siri with Apple devices. Google Voice Assistant can be used with Google speakers such as a Google Home Mini or a Google Nest Mini, and you can use Amazon Alexa on Amazon speakers like the Echo Dot. I used a Google Nest Mini and it actually works pretty well. Using the activation of the speaker, it takes the Cyrus out of standby and selects the input and starts playing your chosen music. Hey Google, play Mozart on living room speaker.
Alright, playing Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart on Spotify. Playing on living room speaker.
Hey Google, are you sentient and part of a global artificial intelligence takeover?
On a scale of Waller to HAL 9000, I'm more of an R2D2. I try to be a helpful and fun AI. I have facts, quotes and loads of jokes up my sleeve.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
The light startup sequence is really cool, and they say that small things please small minds, don't they? With Google voice control devices, unfortunately you can only use Google Play Music, Deezer, Spotify and YouTube Music. You cannot cast to Tidal or Qobuz over voice control. Now I didn't use an Amazon voice control speaker, but as far as I can tell you can only cast using Apple Music, Amazon Music and Spotify. Again, you can't use Tidal or Qobuz. This is obviously due to the fact that the Tidal and Qobuz apps have to be integrated with voice control, and obviously they aren't. You can Bluetooth music to the Cyrus ONE Cast, and you can also use Apple AirPlay, but if you do use AirPlay, you lose casting functionality and you cannot use Google or Amazon voice control devices. You can use a Chromecast audio device into one of the digital inputs and then use a device like a Google Nest Mini to voice activate to it. And the reason why I'm mentioning this I'll come on to later. I should say that using this setup you can't use voice activation to turn the Cyrus ONE Cast on, you actually have to physically turn it on and set the input. Sound quality with the Cyrus ONE Cast is absolutely terrific, and it just shows how big there are diminishing returns in hi-fi with higher price gear. A box as good as this, why do you need anything else? Overall, the main impression you get with this unit is superb drive. Now, I don't know where to go with analogy with that, but maybe more drive than Route 66. With my PMCs, bass is full and energetic. This is a standout trait, and it's the same with the Minimos as well. What's also great is that it's achieved really early on. This amp isn't even run in yet. It's a dynamic and reasonably tight, organised sound, if not the same crispness and detail of a Cyrus signature system that I'm used to with my chord DAC. But that's a much more expensive system, and it's hardly surprising. I actually found the balance of bass and treble is bang on. Cyrus have actually been criticised in the past for quite sharp, trebly sounding amplifiers, but I just don't think that's the case here at all, and I found it a very neutral sounding amplifier. Class D amplification tends to be very powerful, but it can have quite a sharp, bright sonic signature. In this case, the Cyrus doesn't have this at all, and I think Cyrus should be commended because they've got this so good in this case. It's almost as neutral as their Class AB amps that I'm used to, the Cyrus Mono X 200 and 300 signature power amps. I can also say that it doesn't actually stray too much from the Cyrus sound, and Cyrus have obviously worked wonders with this amplifier. Using the Chromecast audio puck into one of the digital inputs against using the internal Chromecast was next to damn it difference with my PMCs, and no difference at all with the Minimos. Marginally more open and less compressed with the internal casting engine with my PMCs, but very, very slight. This is obviously an important consideration because you're more likely to be using the ONE Cast with speakers like the Minimos, which don't quite have the resolution of much pricier models. So are you going to notice these differences? What's obviously undeniable though is that the amplifier in this unit is by far its strongest suit. I did actually try plugging my Chord Cutis DAC into the AV inputs of this unit, and unsurprisingly the sound came alive more. There was more dynamics, more naturalness, and just better detail and an open soundstage in the recording. I guess this is hardly surprising for a £1,200 Chord DAC, but what it did show is that it showed how great the amplifier in the ONE Cast is. It didn't show up the amplifier at all. If anything, it made it better. I did find its own internal DAC to be acceptable. Nothing to write home about, but decent, and works well with the Cyrus ONE Cast. DACs don't tend to be Cyrus's strong point, but overall, as a package, it all works seamlessly together. I should actually point out that the headphone amp is a Class AB design, and I found it worked really well with my Grados. Headphones around £200–250. The big question is a Cyrus ONE Cast better value with its inbuilt Chromecast audio compared to buying a Cyrus ONE HD and adding a Chromecast audio? A Chromecast audio puck is £30. The ONE HD version is £800 at the moment, and the ONE Cast is £1,300. So £500 is quite a big price for Chromecasting functionality and voice control compatibility. To recap, the ONE HD and ONE Cast models use the same 4th generation Class D amplifier, so the differences are only in the casting and voice control. I think some people are going to be like, well, for the sake of the extra £500, to hell with it, I'll just buy it for the sake of an all-in-one. But it's not as if you can't just hide the Chromecast audio behind the back of a Cyrus ONE HD. Because sonically the inbuilt Chromecast is similar to Chromecast audio puck. I guess what it comes down to is whether you value voice control or not. And as we said, you can still use a Google Nest Mini voice control speaker with a Chromecast audio with the One HD. So you can still get voice activation for a lot less money. At the moment, you can buy the Google Nest Mini for about £30. One question I had to ask myself as part of this review is whether voice control in hi-fi is a gimmick. And I kind of came to the view that it is and it isn't. It isn't because it's quite useful to start your hi-fi playing by giving it a voice control that you'd otherwise have to pick your iPad up, you'd have to turn the switch on, etc, etc. The problem is that when you want to sit down and do some serious listening, or you want to command tracks you don't know the name, you're just going to revert to using your iPad or your computer. I mean, how would you remember the name of a long classical track, and would the voice control actually confuse what you're saying as well? It's a bit like the same reasons that you have voice control in your car. You know, you can start using it to play a certain track on a CD, but at the end of the day, you just need to push a few buttons and you can do the same thing. This isn't out of some sort of notion that I'm not up with the latest technology, but I take the attitude, if it ain't broke, then you don't need to fix it. Personally, I think a £500 difference is too much when you don't actually need very massively decent streamers for amps in this type of class anyway. Streamers are often something that you get big diminishing returns anyway. So this casting functionality may not be valued depending upon your view, but the Class D in this amplifier is. So it makes, in my view, the Cyrus ONE HD a better buy, particularly saving yourself £500. If you use Roon, you can cast within it to your Chromecast audio puck. So again, this obviates the need for a casting engine in your Cyrus. I think you're going to find that you could improve on the DAC in this unit, and if you don't mind an extra box, a left field idea might be to buy something like Musical Fidelity MX DAC that I reviewed and add it as a 2-box system. This DAC is much more improved to the one you get in the Cyrus. You could also add Chromecasting to that setup, and also they're both half-width boxes, so you get a good neat form factor in your rack. Well, that's the end of this little review, and I hope you like what I've had to say. And once again, if you do, please hit the subscribe button or like button. It gets more viewers, encourages manufacturers to invest in this review site, and I can keep on doing reviews for you. Also, if anyone wants me to review particular products, then please contact me on my website, and if I get enough people asking for the same reviews, I'll see what I can do. As always, thanks very much for watching.